Welcome everyone to the Area 111 live stream. This is your host RH coming at you again from the beautiful rainy state of Florida, rainy and sunshine state of Florida. So I'm going to try to keep this live stream positive, okay, positive. And sometimes, you have to expose the evil to basically head towards um, the positive outcomes. If we don't expose the evil at all, I mean, the evil's just going to continue to keep on committing those evil acts, very evil acts, and maybe even some lesser evil acts, but they'll continue to do it unimpeded, unimpeded. Okay, these people are caught red-handed. I don't care what you think about the one big beautiful bill. I could care less what you think about it. You have a right to your own opinions. In your opinions about the president of the United States, the current president of the United States, you have the right to formulate your own opinions. But most of these opinions are based on faulty logic, uneducated, unresearched opinions, or as they call them, assessments. Let me just use an example of an assessment. The Intelligence Community Assessment Report. Remember that one? Remember that doozy, the Russia one? Remember that doozy? It was put together as part of the broader criminal conspiracy to overthrow the government of the United States. And I hate to break it to some people, but the president of the United States is very, very, very critical in our government. He's the chief executive officer of the executive branch of government. What does the president of the United States execute? Well, foreign trade deals, right? Domestic and foreign policy, right? Trade deals, tariffs, that kind of thing. So they overthrew or tried to overthrow. They were successful as far as hindsight perfect vision is concerned. And finally, after all these years, even in what happened in 2016 leading up to that, we already know. Most people on this channel that listen to this channel, we already know in this community what they gotten away with. There has not been a single high-level official that's been arrested yet. They colluded with Russia to put together the dossier, a fraudulent dossier. They basically, the intelligence community, led in part by John Brennan, put together a fraudulent intelligence committee assessment report. Think about that. So they can falsely identify President Trump as a traitor associated as being a foreign agent working for Russia. They produced the presidential findings to authorize the use of illegal surveillance on President Trump, President Trump's cabinet, President Trump's family members, President Trump's associates. They were spying on our government, and it was outsourced. There's this big smoking breaking news I heard the other day, right? About stuff that far as the information I've shared on this channel many, many times about Echelon, how they outsourced the spying on our government, our duly elected government. They outsourced it. Still, even though they outsourced it, they were spying on President Trump, his cabinet, his associates, his family members. Now, I think it goes much deeper than that, far as the spying, the surveillance. In my opinion, they were spying on every word that, pretty much every word that Donald Trump communicated. That started in 2016, or even maybe in late summer or fall of 2015. I believe President Trump threw his hat in the ring, said he's going to run on June 14th of 2015. I believe that was the date. So they put together, they used, remember Danchenko? Remember? He's a Russian citizen. I mean, this is, I hate to go back and repeat all this stuff because people, it gets old. It really does. You think about it. The intel community basically working with the President of the United States and foreign intel, we talked about the eyes, right? They were spying on pretty much every word that President Trump communicated, whether it was written, orally spoken, whether it was electronically, whatever. Every single thing that the guy did, they were spying on. I think it even included spying and listening in on Pillow Talk in Mar-a-Lago and probably Bedford. Where's that? Bedford, New Jersey. Bedminster, I think it's called. Remember the place there? That was kind of like the White House for a while until they tried to they did an effort to try to debug the White House. Remember? They had to basically clean that White House of all those bugs, like putting a tent over it. You know how they used to put a tent over a home whenever they had problems with insects or whatever, pest or whatever. They literally kind of like, in a way, put a big old tent over the White House. Okay, they said, okay, they're remodeling or whatever. They use all that kind of excuse, but they bugged the White House. They bugged Mar-a-Lago. People, if you don't believe that, you think RH is just spinning a bunch of nonsense because, well, I'm a grifter, right? Well, what am I grifting? Have I ever asked anybody for any money at all? This is not a grift. If I'm a grifter, I'm probably the worst grifter in the entire world. What am I grifting from anybody? Okay, the only thing you might say is I'm taking up some of your time for listening to this. And that's how they do it. They got their brown shirts out there. Their brown shirts. They report on you. Wow. They deplatform you. Oh, RH is spreading disinformation. I went down and explained exactly how they did it and how they think they're going to get away with it. You know what happened to Epstein, right? They were close to Epstein and President Trump. With their malicious prosecution and all the lies, the continuous lies, every day. I saw a journalist actually have this little evil grin on their face because there was like 9 or 8 non-votes, or one person went over to the nay side, and it was 5 nays, right? And like 8 or 9, whatever, no votes, right? So they were smiling. They were starting to celebrate because that was there was a procedural vote or something, whatever they were having, to whether that was actually going to go to the vote on the final vote on the floor in the House of Representatives, right? They were smiling. They were already partying. Can you imagine that? They were voting for the largest tax increase, I think, in the history of our country. Now, I like to remember, hey, Tanya, great to see you. Appreciate you being here. For everybody that's over on Rumble, thank you for being here. Again, look at this vote. Just think about it. The one big, beautiful bill. Every single Democrat voted nay. Every single one of them. And I think they need to be investigated as far as if they were threatened. You know, you had Hakeem Jeffries out there, the House Minority Leader, out there in his office, I think in the White House, not the Capitol building, whatever, the Russell building, wherever they have, where he's holding a baseball bat in his hand. Oh my gosh, Hakeem. Oh my gosh. What was he referring to? Remember the baseball practice? Where that guy just went to visit Bernie Sanders' office? Remember? He wrote on his social media page, right, or his wall, Donald Trump is trying to destroy our democracy. Something to the effect that it's time to destroy Trump and company. So he gets from Chicago, hops in his van or whatever, takes all the stuff he takes with him. After he was, the sheriff department was called by his neighbors because he was target practicing, hitting trees on his property, and his neighbors got a little bit nervous. And what the hell is this crazy guy doing, right? See, it's amazing how many people forgot that. So he travels all the way. Isn't that right, Hakeem? Hakeem Jeffries. You got your baseball bat out, right? You think you're funny, huh? So James Hutchinson, he travels all the way from Chicago after he was conducting target practice, and he was interviewed by a sheriff or sheriff deputies. What the heck you were doing? I guess they didn't have time to look at his social media. I guess they didn't put him under the watch list, right? Of his threats on the social media pages. Time to destroy Trump and company. Who do we think the company was? See, he couldn't get at President Trump because that's a hardened target. So he went after the company, remember? And again, this was all after he visited Bernie Sanders' office. He spoke with Bernie Sanders. So he found out that the Republicans were conducting baseball practice. I believe it was in Virginia. So then he shifted his targets. And he's out there in the parking lot asking, I think he asked DeSantis, when Governor DeSantis was a congressman, right? He asked who was out there. There was another individual he asked as well. Who's out there practicing whatever? And he asked if it was the Republicans or Democrats. He had to be specific. Baseball, you know? You baseball practice, you do fielding, and you do hitting practice, you know what I mean? With a baseball bat. You know, these people, they think we're stupid. They think we're stupid. Man, the American people, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, unless you're mentally deranged or something, and you don't even support your own self-preservation. If they would actually know what has happened behind the scenes and how they attacked their own people for their own personal geopolitical interest or their own personal financial interest, they'd probably never, ever, that whole party would just cave in. And that's what should happen after this. How many more bits of facts do we need? Our community needs, and people even in, the Reagan blue collar, supporters and all that. The working class people, the independent mom and pop stores, which includes, people that immigrated into our country legally. That's what that bill was. That was what this bill was to protect. Our independent small businesses. And I have to say thank you, Kelly Loeffler, for coming around. Right? Thank you, Kelly Loeffler, for coming around and supporting the one big, beautiful bill. For the 4th of July tomorrow, we should have gold fireworks, red fireworks, gold first, red next, white next, and blue next. Gold, red, white, and blue. That's what we should be seeing tomorrow. This is a huge victory for the American people, for the working class people, for the small businesses, for the middle class. This is a huge victory. And I'm not going to downplay it for anyone. Now, you can't tell me that 212 Democrats representatives, U.S. Democrat representatives, they all didn't know what actually was going to happen if that bill failed and it was voted down and we didn't get the majority. You can't tell me that they weren't offered anything or they wasn't threatened, to include those 2 nays on the Republican side of the camp. You cannot tell me they wasn't threatened or they weren't offered any type of monetized whatever, you know what I mean? They were not monetized to basically change their vote. You can't tell me all these people are that stupid to vote for the biggest tax increase probably in the entire history of the United States of America. You cannot tell me that they was not pressured to basically vote no taxes on Social Security. You can't tell me they didn't know what they were doing. Their hatred for Donald Trump is so off the charts, crazy, nuts, bat guano crazy, that they wasn't given an incentive to vote against it. Every single Democrat voted against it, and 2 Republicans. And there was, I think, 2 other Republicans that were persuaded. Up till like about, what was it, 1 o'clock today or something like that? 1 o'clock this afternoon? To vote down that bill? They had the majority. It went all night long with these Democrats playing their stupid games and their stupid speeches. Like there's some type of heroes or something. Okay, now this is really, really big right here. Remember, they set this up October 17th of 2019. CNN posted a Moody study from top-level economists. Moody is the institute that basically decides, from my understanding, fact check me, what our credit rating is, what the United States credit rating is. I'm pretty sure that's that same institution. So that's the reason why CNN posted the article. Democrats need to sharpen their attacks on the Trump economy. The Democrats need to sharpen their attacks on the Trump economy. Let's say it again. Repeat after me. The Democrats need to sharpen their attacks on the Trump economy. What do you think you're seeing on that avatar photograph? It couldn't be any clearer. It's crystal clear to me. If you use just plain common sense. What did they use to attack the Trump economy? That was our economy. What did they develop in a lab to take down our economy? What did they just try to do while tanking this one big beautiful bill? To tank our economy. Who's the chairman of the Federal Reserve? They won't even lower interest rates because they said the economy is basically something to the fact they're deflating the economy. And they're trying to keep the gasoline prices at the pump at a higher rate. Remember, I was paying $1.97 a gallon in the state of Florida during President Trump's first term. It got down to below $2 a gallon. It's still up, I think it's a little bit below $3 a gallon. And that's because they are trying to that's part of tanking our economy. They purposely build up the inflation by all this theft. Unimpeded theft, hand over fist theft of tax dollars in the trillions to tank our economy. Democrats need to sharpen their attacks on the Trump economy. Remember, that was a post that CNN put out. That was the title of it. You don't even have to basically go through that article. It's archived. I've talked about it many times. That was October 17, 2019. The very next day, they told us how they're going to tank the Trump economy, our economy. Listen, that's our economy. They went after us. They went after to punish us because we elected President Trump. We wanted a true change. To basically eliminate poverty in our country, to reverse the course they had us on, and these nonstop wars all around the world. Listen, even while they were trying to aid and abet the number one state sponsors of terrorism, they were still chanting death to America. I got people trying to think that they're lecturing me about Donald Trump just attacked. He was basically unprovoked attack Iran on a weapons of mass destruction, another weapons of mass destruction lie. He's going to get us in World War III. What is it not to understand about Deaf to America that people fail to even acknowledge? Where does that come from? It comes from the hatred of Jewish people. That's where it comes from. It comes from the Trump derangement syndrome. It comes from the hatred of America itself and the people, the citizens therein. Oh, RH, you're going a little bit too far. For 4 years straight, they showed us how they hated us. They facilitated and directed the biggest invasion, foreign military and terrorist insurgency into our country, the biggest foreign invasion into our country in the history of our country in 4 years. That's what they did. And none of them has been held accountable yet. Not a single one of them. They destroyed our, you know, the reason why we got through the COVID stuff era? You know the only reason why? It's because, remember, 15 days to stop the spread. Remember that? And I understand they sold Trump a bill of goods as far as the darks are concerned. I don't want to even get into it. We already know. I don't care what they say. I could care less what they say anymore. I know what they did. Anybody else with a lick of sense knows what they've done and what they just tried to do here again. You know, if I was a Democrat in the Democrat Party affiliated with it, I was a representative of the Democrat Party, I would resign immediately. Whenever, you know, the pro-death policies came out, and they were filibustering that on the floor during the speaker vote, right, for Mike Johnson, I would have just walked out. I would just walked out and changed. I think you could change parties without walking out, right? Can't you change party affiliation? They're held hostage. Use your imagination how they're holding these people hostage to attack to attack our country, to attack our economy, to attack our livelihoods. There's got to be money involved. A lot of money. And we know the same old culprits, right? We don't have to mention them anymore. People just automatically start talking about these people. Gulf Sierra, you know, Bravo, Gulf, whatever. You know, I mean, should I have to go by and talk like that? No. Y'all know who I'm talking about. I'm RH, Romeo Hotel. Wow, man. That sounds kind of sexy, don't it? Romeo Hotel. Hey, I didn't. That's the phonetic alphabet, whatever. I didn't create it. Romeo Hotel, Romeo Hotel. Where art thou, Romeo? Whatever, man. You know, I tell you, we have a big reason to celebrate, and please don't just come in and check out. You haven't even listened to the message yet. Just think about it. Think about if you're in the service business and you get tips. No tax on tips, right? They voted that down too, right? Oh, they wanted a separate bill to get all that, right? So they can claim a victory. The one big, beautiful bill. You know, and I hear some Lima Juliet. Try to put 7,000 pounds in the back of a Toyota Tacoma. Man, I respect you, brother. immensely. Try to put 7,000 pounds into the back of a Toyota Tacoma. You know, you can't even pull a Toyota Tacoma. You can't even pull but 5,000 pounds. You know, you think about putting 2 cars in the back of a pickup if you can manage it. Maybe you go to a junkyard, you know, where they compress the cars, whatever, and try to put 2 compressed cars like a whole cube of a car, right? Crushed, right? Put it in the back. Just put one of those cars crushed in the back of the bed of a Toyota Tacoma truck. If it will even fit. Put 2 of those. 2 cars. 3,500 pounds, or 2 trucks, pickup trucks. Compress them and put them in the back of a Toyota Tacoma and see what happens to that truck. Try to drive that truck to another deep down underground facility, right? Try to drive that Tacoma. Brother, I respect you a lot, but unprovoked. What is it for you not to understand about death to America? Unprovoked attack. Oh, they wasn't enriching. They didn't have a nuclear weapons program. They were allowing the inspectors to come in. Really? They just refused the inspectors to come in. They just refused it. As far as my understanding, they were 60% enriched. The uranium. They're enriching up to 60%. Moving it from weapons grade uranium, that's 90%. It would have only taken a few more weeks. And their religion doesn't believe in it? Their religion doesn't. They chant death to America almost every single day and wiping Israel off the map. I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. Go back and do the research. Ahmadinejad, or whatever his name was, he said he's going to turn America into a blazing inferno. Now, that's a head scratcher there. Give RH a moment where I'm going to scratch my head and go, I wonder how he's going to achieve that goal to turn America into a blazing inferno. Let me scratch my head. I'm really not that sure what he was going to use to do that. While Russia is a nuclear armed country, China is a nuclear armed country, and North Korea is a nuclear armed country. They are all strategic military allies with Russia, with Iran. They're all strategic military allies with Iran, while they're chanting death to America. Now, what kind of common sense do you have not to understand the national security threat of that? And at least you should understand the threat, death to America. Is that part of their religion too? Think about all the God-fearing and respecting people that live in America that try to live their life God-like, to live a life that God would want us to live. Think about all those people in our country. Is that because of their religion that they're going to murder all those people? So we're basing all this off of lies, huh? So no, we're basing it off of true logic and not faulty logic. Hey, listen, remember how many live streams have I went out there and shared Matthew chapter 5, verse 9? Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. That would be the greatest honor if God said I was a child of his, right? That would be the the greatest compliment, the greatest honor I think any man or woman could have. That would be the big greatest honor that I would have, to be identified as a man of God or a child of God. You know, I haven't heard a single Democrat U.S. representative chant death to Iran. Have you heard that? But I did see when Benjamin Netanyahu came and gave a speech inside the Congress, right? What they do, they boycotted it, right? Nancy Pelosi sat with her back next to her back towards Netanyahu, whether you like him or not. We're talking about facts here. The entire campaign staff of Barack Obama traveled to Israel in the attempt to overthrow Netanyahu, whether we like him or not. So look at this. This picture's worth more than 1,000 words. More than 1,000 words. What they just tried to do to us again. So let's just use true logic again. What do you think they had? Why did they facilitate and direct an invasion into our country? Why are they still fighting to keep all those people in our country? Remember, I talked about this again. It's very, very important to mention it again. Started with Acorn. Remember Mr. Acorn himself, who ran the Biden administration for 3 terms? Remember even CNN, there's an archive out there that they were creating fraudulent registrations in the thousands. And they were caught. Then they went to what? Organizing for Action. They had over a 30,000 foot soldiers that they could call up on the ground. Just because they changed their name doesn't mean they're not out there still. And listen to this. No Kings. They were just out there at the new facility in the Everglades, on the edges of the Everglades. I do believe that's part or right at the edge of the Everglades, right, in Florida. Those facilities where they were going to, holding facilities before these people were deported, on the orders to be deported. Removal orders from judges, right? The No Kings were protesting. There was hundreds of vehicles out there that were protesting that facility. No Kings. No Kings. What the hell are they talking about? This is not a monarchy. These people got to learn the Constitution. Have they ever read the Constitution? Have they ever read Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution? The United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union, each state in the Union, a republican form of government, and will ensure against invasion and against domestic violence. They don't even understand that. We're not a monarchy. We're not. But based on this vote here, they want us to be subservient to them. And if we're not subservient to them, look, who voted nay? They voted nay because they're against the American people. They're against the foundation of our country. They don't even know, their legislatures, and they don't even know we are guaranteed to have a Republican form of government. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say this is a democracy or democratic form of government. Nowhere in the Constitution. Find it for me. There's nowhere in the Constitution where it states separation of government and church. There's nowhere in the Constitution that states separation of church and state. What it does say is no Congress cannot establish a religion. What does that mean? Well, they can't establish a Sharia law, for example, because we are a constitutional republic. That's where in the Constitution it is that basically proves we're a constitutional republic. It's in Article 4, Section 4. These people, these Democrats, they so-called Democrats, they do not support a constitutional government. A Republican form of government. They fight tooth and nail every day. They run their mob rules democracy all the time. You see it on the streets when they're burning. That's their mob rules democracy. If you don't do what we tell you to do, our brown shirts are going to come after you. We're going to dox you. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And still no arrest for what they did even back in 2016. No arrest. No arrest whatsoever. As far as high-level officials. They facilitated, they directed. Some people probably say facilitating and directing is the same thing. Okay, you have a right to that, but to make it where we can really understand it, they facilitated and directed the largest overthrow of our country in the history of our country through the invasion. We talked on the registrations, the foot soldiers, the NGOs. Thank you, Laura Logan, for your post on True Social. Thank you, Laura Logan. She doesn't know who I am. Lara. Lara. Logan. Logan. Thank you. Man, this is probably one of the best live streams that I could even imagine to put out there. I know everybody's getting ready for the 4th of July tomorrow, but I wish everybody a beautiful gold, red, white, and blue 4th of July. And, you know, we have to, unfortunately, now because they facilitated and directed an invasion in our country from January 20th of 2021 to January 20th of 2025. We understand why we have to have situational awareness on our streets, even on our own properties, because of what these people have done, for what they facilitated. Okay, it went from Acorn to Organizing for Action, the same two individuals talking about lawfare. You got the president of Harvard Law School, right? And you got the former Attorney General Eric Holder, Barack Obama's wingman. Remember? They put together Organizing for Action. They put together the ground troops, the NGOs, whatever. And then what did they do while they were facilitating and helping to direct the invasion into our country with the lawfare and all that other stuff for 4 years? They created the National Democratic Redistricting Committee organization. The National Democratic Redistricting Committee organization. Well, what are you talking about, RH? Well, where do you think they were basically shipping all these illegals into? Into the districts. Remember the Darien Gap? They were flowing through there. Not only through the Darien Gap, they were flying through the fast telephone app, right? Remember, they were flying them in to the districts they needed to basically create an unpenetrable, I guess you call it, Democrat government, Democrat Party government. They were going to rig all the districts. They were going to add more Democrat seats. They ripped this off on seats, I think, in Florida with all the people we have now in the census report. Remember, we talked about the census, right? They got the census report, which tells how many voters or how many people will be of voting age during the next elections. They formulated the National Democratic Redistricting Committee. And then they started bringing in all those illegals into those districts to add more seats. They brought in approximately 20 million people. The Democrats right there, 212 nay, every single one of them. They supported the invasion. They kept their mouths shut. They didn't even go down to the border. They blocked independent journalists from even going down the border because they blocked the news from what was actually happening at the border. And they read their Mockingbird media scripts. You heard them all talking about, oh, the cages, right? Unbelievable. But again, we cannot understate the victory we have. Now, I know conservatives, I know they are upset about some of that money that's going to go towards this bill, right? I understand it. But let's remind those people that were holdouts or were bought and paid for or whatever, the nays on the Republican side and all the nays on the Democrat Party side. I like to remind every single one of those people, especially those who have been involved in criminally corrupt activities, that helped facilitate and direct the invasion into our country. I have to remind y'all something. We have the evidence. It's insurmountable. When RH says the evidence is insurmountable, it means you have nothing to say, basically, that can top the evidence to hold these people accountable. It's insurmountable. This is the largest overthrow attempt. Actually, the largest overthrow of our government happened in 2020. Successful in 2016. The only reason why they were unsuccessful, actually overthrown, in a way they did. If you look at like President Trump's national security advisor, what they did to him, and how they stonewalled him and blocked him from even securing the border. You know, Donald Trump was executing his constitutional duties under Article 4, Section 4 to secure the border. They criminally obstructed the president of the United States of those duties. That's his main constitutional duties. They actually went into the White House to obstruct them. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. How many people even remember that? The evidence is insurmountable. I don't care how long they take to hold these people accountable. I don't know. It would only take me one day to make sure the person's due process of law rights are basically recognized or achieved. That's all. That's all they're afforded. You can't commit treason and be a judge. You can be arrested. Where is it in the Constitution somebody commits treason that they cannot be arrested? There's stipulations for impeachment for the president and the vice president, right? Oh, you got to impeach a judge? You got to impeach a Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Mayorkas? You got to impeach him if he's committed treason? No, you don't. You can arrest him right now. Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution gives the justification to arrest all these people right this second. And you got the bill and you got the money to do it. That's why they were voting against it. Because they do not want to be held accountable. What if it is a politician in basically U.S. House of Representatives or U.S. Senate? What if it's one of those people? What is the law as far as that? You can't arrest them while they're in session. Immediately after they're out of session, you can arrest them for high crimes, including treason. For those that were involved in treason, yeah, it might have just been monetary, bribes or extortion or whatever, or threats of physical harm, whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat, you should be afforded special protection if your life or your life of your family members has been threatened to force you to vote one way or the other. Remember, one law for one people. Now, I've understated the immense positive outcome of this one big beautiful bill. Not only does it help secure our border to ensure we can have more personnel to ensure that job is done. Because remember, I've talked about this also before many times. The people that are actually getting across our border, they have the money and the means to do it. There's a lot of sellouts in our country. They hate our country, right? They'll do anything to make a buck. Especially if it's pleasant to their eyes, right? They'll do anything. They'll do anything. Use your imagination of what I'm talking about. Now, there's a stipulation on those people as far as murder goes. That's in Numbers chapter 35, verse 30. Whoso killeth any person, the murderer shall be put to death by the mouth of witnesses. But one witness shall not testify against any person to cause him to die. Which means one person is not sufficient testimony. You have to have at least two, right? Because it's your word against somebody else's. If you're a defendant, it's your word or possible defendant. You can't just go out there, oh, Donald Trump did this, and Donald Trump did that. Oh, this one big bill, beautiful bill is going to murder people. all that kind of stuff. The stupidity you hear. Yeah, even if they got, okay, you got to have due process of law. So there's an extension of this law back then. Why do you think that's necessary? To ensure they don't steal another life or take another life, right? We're not talking about self-defense here. We're talking about cold-blooded murderers. Okay, what else? What else have I talked about for our scriptural basis concerned? Numbers chapter 15:15. So the other one was Numbers 35, verse 30. Chapter 35, verse 30. Remember? Okay, Numbers chapter 15. Numbers chapter 15. Oh, there's two different laws? One for us and one for them? Really? Oh, they can be extorted? They can basically conduct insider trading? Right? Well, look how long Martha Stewart was put in prison. What, 6 months? And she had, 5 years probation? Remember? Rules for thee, not for me. Rules for us, not for them, right? Oh, politicians are very powerful. I was briefed that. Politicians are very powerful. Numbers chapter 15. We're talking about one law for everyone, for all U.S. citizens. And for those that come in here and want to immigrate in legally, those that want to come in and just come in and illegally and just whatever, that law doesn't, this Constitution doesn't apply to you. Well, I guess it does as far as removal goes. Numbers chapter 15, verse 16. One law in one manner shall be for you and for the stranger that sojourneth with you. Stranger can also be called a foreigner or alien. Okay? Same meaning in this, far as in this concept here. One law. It's not just a concept. It's a law. That's how our Constitution was basically designed. We all have the same rights. We got the Bill of Rights, right? U.S. citizens do. So where else does that say that? Okay, go to Numbers chapter 15, verse 29. Ye shall have one law for him that sinneth ye shall have one law for him that sinneth through ignorance, both for him that is born among the children of Israel and for the stranger that sojourneth among them. But the soul that doeth aught presumptuously, whether he be born in the land or a stranger, the same reproacheth the Lord, and that soul shall be cut off from amongst his people. So you break the law presumptuously, what are you going to do? Basically conquistadors, right? Conquistadors. They conquered. Those are conquered people. They don't have the same native language. They're coming into our country, basically, and saying, this is our land, speaking the conquered language. It's kind of rich, ain't it? They're not even educated. They don't even have the true history of our country. And if they did get it, they wouldn't believe it because of all the BS they've been taught all these years. No, if you sell land or whatever, or you make a treaty and you give up portions of the land, that's law. It's like you decide to sell a piece of property you own. You change over the deed or whatever, to somebody else. It no longer belongs to you. Unless you acquired it illegally, you're not even the true owner of the land. A lot of that going on now, too. Okay, where else does it say that? One law for everyone. Where else does it state that in the Bible? Okay, so you think that Joseph and Mother Mary took little baby Jesus to Egypt to break the laws for that guy that belongs to the racist guy, La Raza? He said, "Oh, give me a ladder or give me a rope and I'll climb that border wall. Let's see you do it, buddy." It's a vital deterrent, justified use under Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. Why don't you read, Mr. La Raza, why don't you read the Constitution one time in your life? Sitting there trying to call us terrorists or racist because we love our country and we want to keep it the way it was founded. That's the reason why you even have those rights. You have a right to believe and say whatever you want to say. Oh, give me a rope. I want to see you to try to climb that new border wall sections with your little rope. Or get your little shovel. I want to see you dig underneath that. I want to see you to dig underneath that. I want to see how long it takes you to dig a hole underneath that big old barrier or fence or however you want to call it, wall or whatever. I want to see the new one. I'm not talking about the old dilapidated barbed wire fences that the posts are laying on the ground because they broke over or they just ran over them, whatever. I'm not talking about that. I want to see you, Mr. La Raza. And hey, I don't call myself the race. I don't belong to an organization called the Racist Organization. You want to, as long as you're not breaking the law, hey, more power to you. Go knock yourself out. So let's see. Exodus chapter 12, verse 49. Let's turn to Exodus chapter 12, verse 49 real quick before I lose more people off the live stream. Getting kind of dusty here. This is not even going into the Ten Commandments. Exodus chapter 12, verse 49. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. That's a person that comes into our country that has like a work visa, a college visa, university visa, study visa, whatever. What is the other? Tourist visa. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. One law. That includes for all those Democrats, 212 of them. One law. You're not even following the Constitution. You're a bunch of lawless, what do you call it? Insurrectionists. You're the real insurrectionist. Seditionist. You helped facilitate and direct an invasion in our country, causing innumerable physical, mental, whatever, financial harm to God knows how many American citizens, just because of your own greed. You put together the broader criminal conspiracy to overthrow the President of the United States and our duly elected government. You failed in 2016, but in many ways you succeeded with the lawfare and constantly suing the Trump administration and Donald Trump. While he's out of office for 4 years, it was nonstop, especially since he threw his hat into the ring and said he will run for president again. Nonstop, malicious prosecution. You know that's against the law, whether it's just a misdemeanor or not. You can tack on some other charges too. Being paid. What do you think a person is going to be charged for that was being paid to overthrow our government? Isn't that some type of form of racketeering? Being paid to overthrow our government? Wow. So we're basically exposing the lawlessness, and that's going to turn into a positive. It's going to turn into many, many positives, because if you do not hold these criminals accountable, they're going to continue to do what they've gotten away with time and time and time again. So this one big, beautiful bill is going to adequately fund securing that border. For all those people that said nay, as far as the Republicans, they had to fight tooth and nail to get them on board, to get to that majority of 218 over the 212 hurdle. We had to fight tooth and nail. I want y'all to think about this. What the D's did. The D's. What the D's did. Remember where they diverted congressionally allocated funds? I think it was like $1 billion. Congressionally allocated funds to finish building that border wall after Trump left office in 2021, January 20th to be exact. Right away, they started to divert the congressionally allocated funds, the lawful funds to finish building that border wall and secure that border. They diverted that funding. We got this under, I think it was a House subcommittee hearing. This is discovery from a House subcommittee hearing. If the person had lied, they could have gone to prison. It was a GSA supervisor. She basically stated during that questioning, under oath, that they diverted the border funding allocation money to environmental restoration. Are y'all hearing me now? They diverted billions of dollars to their Green New Deal. They just basically stole taxpayer dollars, right? That was already congressionally allocated from the government that we elected, that they tried to overthrow. As soon as they got in office, they overturned everything. Right? They did away with our energy independence. Think about how many jobs was lost because of these criminally corrupt members of Congress, the upper and lower house, they call it, right? The Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives. Think about how many lives have actually been lost due to their facilitating and directing the invasion into our country, along with those that helped them in the judicial branch of government. They could be arrested right now. So we are not a monarchy. That's ridiculous, but it doesn't matter, does it? So they can change the names of their organization, National Redistricting Organization, Organizing for Action, or ACORN. They can change the names anytime they want to. Start another NGO, right? And Laura Logan just exposed that U.S. taxpayer money is funding NGOs that is attempting again to overthrow President Trump. I forgot that individual's name. He used to be White House counsel, I believe, for Barack Obama. If I remember his name, somebody can help me out there if you remember his name. I talked about him on another live stream. So let me mosey on over to Rumble real quick to see if we have anybody over there. Please share the live stream so we can get some more people in here, and I'll do a brief summary of about what I've already talked about. Let me make sure we are. So it says there's only 2 over on Rumble. One of those 2 is myself, myself, and I. Man, shadow banning. The brown shirts, I guess, are still out in force. Okay, let me do a volume check here real quick. Testing 1, 2, Rumble. Testing 1, 2, Rumble. Okay, let me do it. Yeah, a little bit of a pause. That's normal. Now I don't know those 2 people that voted nay. Okay, as far as the Republican Party House of Representatives is concerned, I don't know who they are. They were probably under enormous pressure. I heard one senator, I believe, I think his name was Tillis. He said he's basically not running again for re-election. He's basically saying, well, I resign, but I'm still vote no. I'm still going to vote no. This goes all the way back to the evidence we already have from that CNN posting a Moody's study from top-level economists back on October 17th, 2019. Democrats need to sharpen their attacks on the Trump economy. They're worried so much about Trump's economy, his approval rating going down in the toilet by their AstroTurf activities, right? These are not grassroots protests. These are all planned. They purchase even actors. They put out ads on Craigslist. We already know that. We know the big money players behind the scenes. Open Society Institute, right? They want open borders. They don't believe in borders. They don't believe in the sovereignty of the United States of America. You think they believe in Article 4, Section 4? Upholding Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution? Heck no, they don't believe in that. They want to legalize drugs too, right? That's the big push. They're also pushing to legalize drugs. That's the reason why fentanyl got a big foothold into our country. No borders. So let's use our true logic here. Now, does that help the drug trafficking of fentanyl and other dangerous drugs into our country? Does it help when you have no borders at all? What does it help do? It helps destroy our country. Mrs. RH back there saying alligators. Alligator Alcatraz. Yeah, Trump was talking about putting crocodiles in the Rio Grande. It was just a joke, right? Vicious crocodiles. You know, he said you get from between, I think in Africa, right? It was just a joke. And, you know, the alligator Alcatraz is just kind of like a PR, you know, because it's PR for the people that has lost their own loved ones to these open borders and stuff from these people that were brought into our country for their own personal geopolitical interest in their own financial interest. How many of these local governments officials are on the take? Man, we got to clean up that mess. We got to clean up that, what do you call that? The swamp. They call it the swamp. It should be named the sewer. It should be named the sewer. I'll never forget the day that they were voting for Johnson to be the new speaker, right? And Hakeem Jeffries allowed the filibuster for the pro-death fans out there. Hakeem Jeffries supports our reproductive rights. Hakeem Jeffries supports our reproductive rights. They used it as a filibuster to be pro-death. Oh, right, you're discriminating against pro-death. No, I'm discriminating for pro-life. I'm discriminating for our laws to basically follow our laws. That's what I'm discriminating for. So you go up to a red light, right? Do you discriminate in one shape, form, or the other to stop there at the red light? Or do you just go, well, I'm going to discriminate against the red light because I don't like the color, and I'm going to just run through that red light? Huh? Huh? Yeehaw! Yeehaw! That's the D's. Who are you to tell me I have to stop at that red light? You're a racist. It's red. Hee-haw! Hee-haw! Now think about it. You represent the minority, the Democratic minority in Congress, and you allow them to filibuster that, right? You proud of that? Maybe your party needs to be basically taught the birds and the bees again, so you can understand what you can do to help prevent you from being pro-death to begin with. Do we got to go teach these people the birds and the bees again? Listen, I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to shame people that did it and they had complications, all that stuff. We're not talking about it. What's their first argument? Well, what if a woman is raped? Do we know that's how Roe versus Wade got passed? Because Norma McCorvey, I believe that's her name, right? That was Roe versus Wade, right? I forgot, Wade or Roe. I don't know, Norma McCorvey. I get there's names to protect her real name, right? Norma McCorvey, in my opinion, got around some terrible influencers, and she said they basically told her, "You don't have to do this." Well, there's a stipulation: if you were raped, you don't have to. You don't have to have your child, right? Look it up. There was already that stipulation, whether we agreed in it or not. They lied. And you look at all these evil bills and all these evil things they've done and passed in our Congress, to include the invasion, it's all based on a pack of lies. Them going against a big, beautiful bill is based off a pack of lies and division. The favorite tactic of that guy with the red leotards, the pitchfork, and the horns. They're all based, everything basically their parties are founded on is on a pack of lies. I'm not saying that we have nobody in the Republican Party, in our government, that has not made a mistake. And I hope if you make a mistake, you go out there and you correct that mistake. Maybe they bend into the truth a little bit to get their bills passed or whatever, or I don't know. Men and women aren't perfect. Men, women, and children. Us humans, even those of us with a conscious, we have a living soul, we make a mistake. We don't really want to make a mistake. We make mistakes sometimes, and it's good to have real friends that come in and help you out. And hey, RH, you said this. Norm Eisen. I was trying to remember that name. You said this Norm Eisen guy, basically, he's not trying to overthrow the president. No, that's a big mistake. Yeah, it is a big. He basically, in his own words, he said, "We're going to eject." What do you do? What do you mean eject? Is he talking about a fighter pilot? He's going to hit the eject, right? In the Everglades or whatever? You're going to eject him, right? He's going to have to be ejected, right? I talked about the Boeing 747-8, the new one. That's supposed to be the new Air Force One. It's the Boeing 747-8 that they're currently still building. It's supposed to be delivered before the end of, I think, 2026, right? By the end of next year, or before 2026 begins. I can't remember which. It's a quick Google search. But I did a practice landing on Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's very realistic, right? I landed the thing. I stuck the landing, but it said you're too low. I got the too low alert because I was low coming into land. At the airport. I think it was Hartford Airport. But I shared that on this channel, so you can go check that out. The Boeing 747-8 is supposed to be the aircraft that they will be building the Air Force One into, right? So there's supposed to be two of them. If one goes down for maintenance, the other one, the president can travel on the other one, right? So, yeah, Boeing 747-8. So, there's certain types of technology aboard the Air Force One, the new Air Force One. Let's see. What I'm talking about is, now I'm not trying to talk evil into existence. I do, when things like that cross your mind and you think about it, or you get scared or whatever, pray. You can pray to yourself, right? You can pray to yourself. And don't say it out loud. So let's go back to, well, today's not the 4th of July. I don't know why there's nobody here. Let me just pause for a little while and welcome people into the chat or whatever. So back to Norm Eisen. I shared a video, a short place card holder video on Rumble. And if you go down, I think I actually have Norm Eisen's name, or ejecting. No, the coup. That's a coup. He formulated over by himself in his lawfare or whatever, his lawfare organization, wherever he works for or whoever he's paid by. Remember, money's U.S. tax dollars is going to these NGOs that I guess fund people like Norm Eisen, the former White House counsel, I believe, to the Biden administration. One of those three during one of those 3 terms, or all of them, right? He said he's pretty sure they're going to be able to eject President Trump from office. So he basically formulated over 200 lawsuits to basically, as part of the broader criminal conspiracy, to overthrow our duly elected government again. They're at it again. At 12:01 p.m. on January 20th of 2025, Norm Eisen had one of his employees standing there with a complaint to give to the hotel. I guess it was in which I think it was a Trump hotel, right? International Hotel. Right at 12:01, the very minute he was the president of the United States after reading his oath, they served Trump Hotel International, I believe, with a lawsuit. They were sitting there waiting to serve him. And he's out there bragging about it, right? The lawfare again. And he's already basically bragged about, in the 2 or 3 months that President Trump was in office, that they formulated over 200 lawsuits against Trump and the Trump administration. Lawfare. Wasted taxpayer money. He don't care because he's got basically all these billionaires basically to fund him. And then he said when he's successful, he'll go back to writing books, right? He'll go back to writing books. He'll stop his lawfare. Really? So let's see here. Okay, in the movie The Escape from New York is what I'm talking about. Okay. The director, John Carpenter, Writers John Carpenter and Nick Castle. Stars Kurt Russell, Lee Van Cleef, Ernest Borgnine. Yeah, he's a taxi driver, right? There was other famous people in this. Man, I hope there's no. We've already heard the threat, so remember, that doesn't mean we can't celebrate. Go one of those technologies to help keep the president safe is aboard the Air Force One. At least it was in that movie picture. So go check that out if you haven't done so already. Come on now. God, I gotta refresh the entire live stream every time I go to a source reference. Let's go testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2. Well, we got 5 people here now. That's good. Was only 2. Welcome everybody again to the Area 111 live stream. Okay, got that beautiful echo in the background, which of course means that y'all are hearing me speak. So now again, now remember that's Norm Eisen's threat. He's going to inject, basically be instrumental in ejecting President Trump from office, basically overthrowing President Trump. Now, Norm Eisen, you know, he was White House counsel. I'm pretty sure that was his position during the old Biden administration. Okay, so again, we're celebrating the passage of the one big beautiful bill. And the reason why I support it a lot, no, listen, I support, fiscal, what do you call it, responsibility to make sure that we don't spend more than our budget, is concerned. So remember, they didn't even include the tariffs, right? And the budget deficit they said was going to cause. They didn't use a lot of factors. They used faulty information. I think this information, this job reports, it just came out today after the bill passed, right? So why did they hold that back? Because they wanted it to fail. They wanted all that theft to remain in, and some of that theft is, I'm sure, it's going to be in that bill. But guess what we can do? Guess what those that represent us can do in our government? They can do exactly what the Democrats did. Exactly. Remember the congressional appropriated funds to secure the border? Remember what they did to those? They diverted those funds to environmental restoration. Remember to finish the border wall? Remember what they did? They let all those border wall material laying on the ground and rusting, right? They welded open the gates on the border wall that existed. They welded the border wall gates open. They sold the material to finish the border wall that was congressionally allocated, lawfully allocated to finish that border wall and for border security. The national security preemptive measures to build that wall, they reallocated to government or to environmental restoration. They redirected it. That's stealing. They put it into their Ponzi money laundering schemes. So we don't even have to do that. If we find there's theft in this bill and it gets caught, you can defund it or reallocate it to something that the America needs, that our government needs, that we support. A government doesn't need a Taj Mahal and 50 Olympic-sized swimming pools, for example, or all electric cars and trucks. And that's the reason why, in my opinion, that's why there's a rift between Elon Musk and President of the United States. We taxpayers were supplementing the EV industry, right? They basically strong-armed the auto manufacturers to build all these EVs, right? And a lot of these people, the dealerships and stuff, they couldn't survive through all that. And the products, they were trying to limit, certain attributes of a vehicle that we like, or do away with them, right? By the year 2030, we were supposed to all go to electric vehicles. And they basically turned off the oil wells, right? They're just like going to a water faucet and just turning the faucet off, right? Instead of having it on. They destroyed our energy independence. This helps us back with our energy independence. They lied about the unemployment or the job numbers, right? Just come out that over 100,000 new jobs. The unemployment dropped to like 4%. I don't even like 4%. Could you imagine what's going to happen when we bring back in all that manufacturing and start to be a sovereign country again? And we implement tariffs because they have tariffs on us? I mean, who in their right mind would go, well, Canada is implementing all these tariffs against us. Well, we're not going to implement those against. That's not free trade. The European Union was built, the whole concept of the European Union and the Euro was to basically aggressively compete against the U.S. economy. Most people don't even know that. I was warning people, hey, you do away with your currency, you're basically giving up your sovereignty. So now you're beholden to how many bureaucrats in the EU now? Where's the EU building? What, Brussels? Something like that? I can't remember. It looks like the, what do you call that? The Tower of Babel, right? The EU building. They made a replica of the EU building, the Tower of Babel. You can't make this stuff up. Doesn't that have a cause for concern, at least? So, Hakeem Jeffries, I know this is not going to be very nice. You know what you can do with your baseball bat, buddy. Your little tactics don't basically disturb us at all. All you're doing is exposing yourself, dude. That's all you're doing, dude. You might have part of your family might have been cowboys, dude. Go look it up. Go look it up in the dictionary, the Webster, if you have one. Dude. Come on, dude. Your baseball bat. Man, maybe you should go to actually the baseball practices, to try to play better when you play against those conservatives and Republicans, and instead of getting your butt kicked every time. I mean, that's a bad prop for you to use, So I think it's kind of maybe it's a veiled threat to Republicans, right? Remember the Republicans that were practicing on baseball practice? Remember James Hutchinson? Remember, this is going to be a repeat for those that just come into this channel. Remember James Hutchinson? Remember him? He said, Trump is trying to destroy our democracy. It's time to destroy Trump and company. Now use your imagination. Let's, like I said, that's a head scratcher, right? Let me scratch my head. I wonder what James Hutchinson meant by that, right? That's a head scratcher. Time to destroy Trump and company. And around that time, I think it was right around that time we put out that social media post. He was out there shooting trees on his property. His neighbors called the sheriff department on him, or called 911. Said, "Listen, we got some crazy guy out there shooting his weapon on his property. Getting kind of worried here. We live right next to this guy." Pretty sure it's in Chicago, right? So they came out there and they interviewed him. I guess they did a check on him, right? All clear here, nothing to see here. Oh, what'd you say? Oh, I didn't mean anything by it. I just don't like Donald Trump, you know. What is this here deal you're saying? I'm talking about time to destroy Trump and company. What do you mean by, oh, we don't like him either? I can only imagine. I can only imagine. They didn't put him on a watch list. There was no concern, time for concern or nothing. But his neighbors were concerned about his mental state, right? Or they wouldn't have called the police on him. So he figured out that Trump was too hard of a target to get to. So he reverted to Trump's company. That's why when he's out in the parking lot of the baseball field that the Republicans were conducting baseball practice, he asked Representative Ron DeSantis of the state of Florida, who's out there practicing? Ron told him, those are Republicans. So he went back to his van, got his weapons, and started to go out there to try to kill every one of them that was out there. Thank God for Steve Scalise being there. And, yeah. Steve Scalise nearly died. He was in critical condition. He was in bad shape. You watch him walk nowadays, he still has a problem with walking. It's sad. The sickness of these people. They'll do anything for the love of money or what that money gets you. Anything. Even vote against this. You know how many people they're going to put in poverty? They don't even care. Remember, going back to October 17, 2019, CNN put out a Moody study. You can go research this yourself. Google search it. Democrats need to sharpen their attacks on the Trump economy. The very next day, they told us how they were going to do it. In Event 201, global pandemic exercise based on a new coronavirus. They told us how they were going to do it. Event 201, global pandemic exercise based on a new coronavirus that was created in a lab, a bioweapon. Okay, where are all you brown shirts out there? Fact check me. Fact check me. Do you not even care about your own self-preservation? You're aiding and abetting the number one state sponsor of terrorism and organizations that have been identified as terrorist organizations. Oh, I want to dispel another rumor I heard, and it made me furious. Ronald Reagan ordered a battleship to shell innocent women and children, and that's what justified the attack on the Beirut barracks, killing over 200 Marines. Is that intelligent? Do you know what those over 200 Marines were doing in Beirut, staying in those barracks? They were there. They were blue helmets. They're on a peacekeeping operation to secure the airport, the flight line, the airbase, so we can bring in food, medicines, whatever stuff they needed, clothing, whatever. Remember, Lebanon used to be a Christian-ran country. You got to watch out for libel slander, or the way you make your comments. You got First Amendment right, just like I do. You got to be responsible for those rights, though. Iran, President Trump conducted an unprovoked attack on Iran. Oh, basically enriched uranium. I thought they didn't have enriched uranium. Oh, that's for a peaceful program for nuclear medicine, right? 60%. So it was just to make Trump popular, right? While they're chanting "Death to America" over there. All that's our fault. Like I said, everybody's got a right to their own opinion, but you need to clarify some things. You need to clarify some things, in my opinion. What about the embassy bombing, right? We deserve that too. America deserved that too. Well, thanks for warning President Trump about the bulk data spying. We already knew they were doing. The New York Times, basically, you go to their archives. Trump and Trump associates, something to that effect, were called up and wiretapping. We already knew they were spying on them. We already knew it. I've been reading the mission statement of the Special Activities Division Political Action Group. Maybe some people getting a little bit nervous, right? Some people getting a little bit nervous. And again, I support peace. I don't support war. But this was a matter of self-defense. A matter of self-defense. When somebody's chanting "Death to America," and actually the Ayatollah himself, when they were chanting "Death to America," his own government. When they were chanting death to America, he repeated it. He said, death to America, yes. That's exactly what the man said. If he didn't say it, I would not repeat it. Lima Juliet. Man, brother, I got a lot of respect for you, but you need to clean up some stuff on your owl there. You need to clean up some stuff on your owl. We're calling you to clean up. Clean your owl up. You're responsible for that owl. Clean it up, dude. Dude, right? I had to reset my live stream. So I guess I'm getting pretty close, right? So you warned President Trump they're tapping into the bulk data, right? Oh, basically deleting and inserting data, right? Why don't we let's go into that a little bit deeper while we're talking about it. But I tell you what, man, that infuriates me. I could have been one of those Marines. I was really close to joining the Marines instead of the Air Force. I joined the Air Force in 1978, and I was thinking about becoming a Marine, but I was going back and forth, right? I'd have probably been at Beirut myself. Any of us could have been. Anybody that joined the Marines around that time frame before that, and got deployed over there for that, or you volunteered to do the peacekeeping mission, right? So under President Reagan, the battleship shell positions, I forgot what that valley was called. And that's the reason why Iran was fully justified attacking that Marine barracks. The Beirut bombing, I'm talking about. The Beirut barracks bombing. See, he just admitted that Iran was behind it. You go to the Google search it, right? And when you read the Google search of the Beirut barracks bombing in 1983, you say they couldn't figure out whether or not Iran was responsible for that, or getting one of the proxies, Hezbollah, to do it, right? Well, how is it when you go down about 10 more pages that it says Iran was sued? The plaintiffs, one of the plaintiffs was a paraplegic, I believe you call him, right? He broke his neck. That neck caused that very severe injury. Made him a paraplegic, right? And then you had civilians killed too. Was those justified killings? The French barracks was bombed as well. They lost over 50 men. And I think there was local citizens that lived there too, Lebanese. There's Lebanese janitor that lived on those grounds with his family that was murdered. That was justified? No, I'm not. You didn't say that, so I'm not going to put words in your mouth. But I think President Reagan's son should hear about that, about that accusation that Reagan was behind basically shelling innocent civilians, women and children. I think it was the Shiite women and children, or the Lebanese women and children. Just, okay, we're just going to shell these women and children, right? So we provoked Iran's response on both of those attacks on those innocent people. And then we're going to have to consider that, see, if you can't reveal the evil, how are we going to put a stop to it? Putting a stop to evil, that's positive, right? So we got to address the evil straight on. If they're chanting death to America and they continue to enrich uranium, oh, all that uranium was moved, huh? You could get a Toyota Tacoma and put 7,000 pounds of uranium on a Toyota Tacoma, right? Do we even understand what kind of statement it is? I'm not trying to defame the guy. It's ridiculous. GCHQ, we talked about it on this channel. Men with Hill, who was spying on Trump? They outsourced it. I went through it in detail on this channel. Who outsourced the spying? They didn't have to outsource. They were spying. They had intercept. They were even tapped or listened into the White House switchboard. Who do you think was doing that? Okay. I went through and explained exactly who was behind to overthrow our duly elected government and our president. The coup. Who put together the coup? We already know. They can go out there and omit and pull out stuff out of that bulk data all they want to. We already got the evidence. You know, you're an analyst. If you're an analyst, right? Like Eric Ciaramella. You remember, I used to not be able to even say that name. When I wrote the name, I couldn't even share it to Facebook. Do you know that? I tried to share the name. Go back to Yale, right? Go back to Yale. In his when he's wearing all white, right? Protesting against the expulsion of a certain professor, right? Go back there and look at the history of that. He was one of the main protesters. He was behind part of the coup. He was part of the coup or the conversation, the telephone conversation. By the way, they leaked multiple classified Trump telephone conversations. One of the most egregious ones was whenever they leaked his President Trump's telephone conversation with Duterte in the Philippines, because the Trump administration and Duterte administration at the time had a common objective, and it had something to do with drug trafficking and another type of trafficking. I'm pretty sure y'all know what I'm talking about. They leaked that confidential telephone conversation between President Trump and Duterte to endanger President Trump's life. Who was Duterte fighting in the Philippines? A ISIS cell that was mobilized into the Philippines to overthrow him. Oh, Lord, you don't know what you're talking about. Hee-haw! And that's the reason why they lied about the conversation between Zelensky and President Trump, because they thought President Trump was not going to declassify it. So he declassified the conversation that they used for their fraudulent articles of impeachment. Remember? This is part of the ongoing coup. Even while Trump was out of office for 4 years, they were still trying to make sure he never ran in office again. J6 was proven. J6 was proven. And some people are getting kind of nervous out there, I notice. Hey, I didn't work in the intelligence community. I know what I did. If you have a reason to know, I'll pull out my DD 214 for you and let you read it yourself. Let's see. I think I will do that. Let's RH help RH embellish his career from those that try to shame him, right? Oh, soldier boy. Oh, soldier boy. Who are you, soldier boy? What do you know, right? Well, it helps. It helps that you've been researching information. It helps you have a professional background in the topics that I'm discussing here, right? Let's see. This was dated 13 September 2001. I wonder what happened earlier in that month. From the Commander, 9th Air Force, Master Sergeant RH, Unit Deployment Manager. I don't need to say anything further. Dear Master Sergeant RH, as you retire from active duty in the United States Air Force, I extend to you my personal thanks and sincere appreciation of the 9th Air Force, United States Central Command, Air Forces team for your contributions to our country. Your many years of honorable and dedicated service have helped maintain the security of the nation during a critical time in its history. Your devotion to duty and spirit of sacrifice have set an important standard for all of us to emulate and are in keeping with a proud tradition of military service. So bear with me while I'm trying to talk here. In the coming years, I hope you will maintain an active interest in the military service as the armed forces continue to serve our great nation. My heartfelt thanks and sincere best wishes to you and your family for happiness and success in the future. Signed by General Charles F. Wald. Okay. And I won't read the other document I have, official document, because let's see. In the coming years, I hope you will maintain an active interest in the military service as the armed forces continue to serve our great nation. Let's read this again. One part of it. As you retire from active duty in the United States Air Force, I extend to you my personal thanks and the sincere appreciation of the 9th Air Force, United States Central Command Air Forces team. When did the Northern Alliance disband? Go back and read the allies of the Northern Alliance. When did the Northern Alliance disband? Go look it up for yourself. And look at who our allies were. During the Northern Alliance. So if, say, for example, I was an analyst, I worked at the CIA, right? I would be an analyst for a certain area of responsibility, right? Let's see. What's the area of a unit deployment manager for 609th Combat Operations Squadron? What do you think the area expertise I had to have before I got that job? Before they put me in that job? Because it's a job I could do. Training, right? Making sure everybody's combat ready, right? Do you know what it takes to basically put together a strike group like was ordered to take out those nuclear facilities in Iran, whether you agree with it or not? You have a right to your opinion. Oh, they already moved out the 7,000 pounds of uranium. Enriched uranium. Why would they basically remove 10% enriched uranium, whatever? Hey, I don't like the war either, but I'm not going to go out there and lie, right? And try to be part of a coup to overthrow our duly reelected government. I don't care if you like Trump or you don't like him. You go from a compartmental South American or whatever analyst to now a professional all over the world. Let me go back here. You know, these people aren't, I'm not saying he's done anything wrong. The verbiage. Is very troubling. Okay. And in my opinion, the CIA had a facility in Iran. They might have discontinued that after President Trump was reelected, but I do believe we were funding some of their activities in Iran, helping the mullahs. That's just my personal opinion. Now, if that's proven to be wrong, then prove me wrong, and I'll make the necessary. Okay, there's absolutely no CIA facilities in Iran working with the current and the former governments. Okay. The Special Activities Division or Special Activities Center The Special Activities Center is no longer called the Special Activities Center or Special Activities Division, whatever. Hold on a second. I'm getting this mixed up. It used to be called the Special Activities Division. President Obama and John Brennan reorganized the Special Activities Division to the Special Activities Center. Within the Special Activities Center, it's a division of the CIA, right? They have the Political Action Group for covert political action. Okay, this is tied all in with Echelon. They have compartmental group members of the Political Action Group that have been influencing our foreign and domestic elections for God knows how long. Okay, the Political Action Group is responsible for covert activities relating to political influence, including electronically. Remember, we talked about the vote. So some people out there that are getting kind of nervous, right? They're part of this soft coup, and others are being funded for something even worse, to overthrow our president again. And that's how it starts. That's how it starts. It has to be funded, right? So you go overseas and you fund assassins, right? Overseas. Where do you use your imagination where they've already gone to fund assassins overseas? There's a couple wars going on, right? The Political Action Group is responsible for covert activities related to political influence, psychological operations, economic warfare, and cyber warfare. Covert. Okay, tactical units within SAC can also carry out covert political action while deployed in hostile and austere environments. A large covert operation typically has components that involve many or all of these categories, as well as paramilitary operations. Covert political and influence operations are used to support U.S. foreign policy, as overt support for one element of an insurgency can be counterproductive due to unfavorable impression of the United States in some countries. In such cases, covert assistance allows the U.S. to assist without damaging the reputation of its beneficiaries, like the EU. The EU is an economic opponent of the United States. United States' economy. Of course they don't want President Trump to be reelected. Of course they didn't want Trump to be elected to begin with. Okay? Let's go down further. The Political Action Group within Special Activities Center conducts the deniable psychological operations, also known as black propaganda, as well as covert influence to induce political change in other countries as part of the United States foreign policy. Covert intervention in foreign elections is the most important or most significant form of SAC's political action. This involves in financial support for favored candidates, media support, media guidance, technical support for public relations, get out the vote or political organizing efforts, legal expertise, advertising campaigns, assistance with poll watching, and other means of direct action. Policy decisions are influenced by agents such as subverted officials in the country, including the United States. Subverted officials. I already read about the Brad Raffensperger's subversion letter, the fraudulent election letter that he sent out on what date? J6, right? 2021. To make decisions in their official capacity that are in furtherance of U.S. policy aims. In addition, mechanisms for forming and developing opinions involve the covert use of propaganda. Propaganda uses includes leaflets, newspapers, magazines, books, radio, and television, and all of which are geared to convey the U.S. message appropriate to the region, to include inside the United States. These techniques have expanded to cover the internet as well. They may employ officers to work as journalists, CIA operatives working as journalists. What's his name? Anderson Cooper? Does that ring a bell any? And all the rest of you people? Recruit agents of influence. Operate media platforms like agent of influence, like celebrities, right? Operate media platforms. Yeah, running media platforms, like running our social media and deplatforming us, right? Because they're running the media, they're running the platforms and social media platforms. If I say anything they don't like on this live stream, they can deplatform me. They've already done it multiple times. The shadow ban, I'm still shadow banned. That's why I went from thousands of viewers for a single live stream down to 2 right now on Rumble. They're still shadow banning me and keeping me from getting 500 subs over on YouTube so I can't be monetized. Attacking me personally in multiple ways. Plant certain stories or information in places that hope will come to public attention, like their fraudulent letter about the Hunter Biden laptop. That was from 51 intelligence supervisors or leaders, right? They said the Hunter Biden laptop has all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. That's an example. You don't need to be a CIA analyst to understand that, what they're doing. Or seek to deny and or discredit information that is public knowledge. That's what they did with the laptop. That's what they're still trying to do with the special operation, which President Trump ordered to. It was a self-defense operation against the number one state sponsor of terrorism that's calling for death to America, and put out a fatwa right on the president's life. In all such propaganda efforts, black operations denote those in which the audience is to be kept ignorant of the source. White efforts are those in which the originator openly acknowledges themselves, and gray operations are those in which the source is partially but not fully acknowledged. Okay, I just read y'all the part of their mission statement to basically empower what you learn. It's good for you to read it out loud. Read it silently and read it out loud. Study the source references, whether it's Wikipedia or not. Believe me, you can discredit any type of propaganda by going and looking at the source references and doing a little bit of research yourself to know whether or not it's true or not. When they say they're only operating on foreign soil, they're lying. They're lying directly to every one of us. They still operate, the intelligence community still is operating domestically and trying to influence the election, and they're part of the soft coup. They're a continued part of the soft coup to overthrow our duly reelected president and government. That's what they're doing right now. That's what this vote was all about right here. 212 nays. How do you think that they're all on the same sheet of music? You think that Hakeem Jeffries' baseball bat is scaring them? Well, maybe it does, because they probably know what he's telegraphing. You leave the plantation. What? What James Hodgkinson said. Right? That's who these people are. If they're pro-death, use your imagination. What other evils they're up to? You think they got a problem with stealing trillions of dollars of American taxpayer money? Do you think they have a problem with facilitating and directing an invasion that has caused the deaths of over 250,000 people since I think just January 21st, 2021, or January 20th, 2021 to January 20th, 2025? There might have been thousands more deaths. I'm using a conservative figure. Just in fentanyl alone, and the majority of that fentanyl is coming right across that border. Remember, we're still being invaded in other ways. Yeah, the border physically is secured. There's, what do you call it? A deterrence. That vital national security deterrent is the border wall and securing the border. That's vital to our national security. Anybody says otherwise, they're lying. Basically, on the other side of our northern border. And some of that trickles down. We know what that trickles down to. Into the states, into the, maybe specifically the districts in our country. Oh, and this last guy, let me see, let me do a volume check. Something's not right here. Okay. Yeah, I'm raising my voice again, but when I'm talking here, it's not that loud. But please turn down your volume if it bothers you. If I raise, I got a living soul. I care. I got a conscience. I got a conscience. If the volume is too loud for you, please. Remember, this is a law and order channel. I support law and order 100%. I also support national defense 100%. I support self-defense 100%. Everybody's got a right to defend themselves, whether you're the president of the United States or whoever you are. If you're some person that they call a dumb rube like myself, well, go read a book, RH. I've read the book of the people. I've critically learned it. Is that good enough? And I read Old Yeller. I bought a book, a paperback of Old Yeller. Does that count? Since 2008, when leaders of the church community approached me, warned me about Barack Obama. Black leaders. I shouldn't even have to say that. They are men, just like we are men. They're Christians just like we are Christians. They have a living soul. They warned me about who Barack Obama was when I never even heard the name before. I didn't even know who the guy was. I wasn't in politics at all. We have to inform ourselves if these so-called news sources aren't basically informing us with the truth. They keep on dispelling or putting out this propaganda, not dispelling propaganda. They add to it. They're all reading from the same script still. David Murr, What's another one? What's that lady? I forgot her name. She's always like, she's got these gotcha questions. David Murr and that other lady, they were there during that so-called debate, right? I forgot what her name was. I forgot her name. I have her picture. I shared her avatar picture a couple of times. But anyways, on the CIA payroll, remember, those are highly compartmentalized political action group. It's a group, right? I don't know how many employees they have. They have employees working, I'm sure, at the State Department, and also the of course the Special Activities Center. Remember, they reorganized it and they set up the fraudulent presidential findings, so they think that they can justify the illegal surveillance of Donald Trump. Any one of those people can be arrested. All roads lead to who? Well, don't say it, because he's got a skin tan, a little bit darker skin tan, so that law doesn't apply to him, right? If we take him down, we're going to lose half our government. Well, they're delegating or making National Guard members to be judges. They're basically swearing them in to be immigration judges, right? So that process will go smoothly, so there won't be no, delays to securing our country, or trying the best we can to re-secure our country again. Let me see if I got that avatar picture again. Somebody can help me out in the chat. Let me see. Where's her? No, I don't have it anymore. That's a shame. Let me see if I can find it again. It's let's see here. Democrats need to sharpen their attacks on the Trump economy to win. This isn't the one I'm talking about, but if I remember her name, I'll bring it up on another live stream, God willing. Let's see here. Yeah. We're talking about the Special Activities Center, right? Political Action Group. Remember, October 19, 2019, CNN put out a Moody's study from top-level economists. Democrats need to sharpen their attacks on the Trump economy. The very next day in Event 201, they told us how they were going to do it. Event 201 is a global pandemic exercise held on October 18, 2019, the day that CNN put out the article that Democrats have to strengthen their attacks on our economy. They held this exercise in New York, on our soil. In that picture, you'll see Avril Haines. That's a global pandemic exercise based on the new coronavirus that was created in a lab. She's sitting right next to the CCP, Center of Disease Control Director George, I always say George Kung Fu Gao, because President Trump talked about, a certain type of virus, right? From a certain country, right? And they called him a racist, right? The CIA journalist, right, called him a racist. That's part of their propaganda operation, part of their psychological warfare operation. She's sitting right next to the Center of Communist Chinese Party, Center of Disease Control Director George Fu Gao. That's the man to her right-hand man with those glasses. Who is Avril Haines? Pictured in this avatar photograph. She was her boss was, she was the deputy director of the CIA, working for who? John Brennan, Joe Biden, and Barack Obama. She was also the deputy national security advisor, working for who? Susan Rice, Joe Biden, and Barack Obama. At the time of Event 201, on October 18th of 2019, she was Joe Biden's, Theo Biden, senior campaign advisor. Remember where all roads lead to? Wow. Only one listener now. This kind of information, have you ever heard this information put together and delivered like I do? Yeah, I got a living soul. That's why I get mad. That's why I get angry. That's why I raise my voice. Because these people should already be in jail. In prison. They deserve more than 30 days in jail or 3 months. They deserved it. They earned it. Give them what they earned. And what's the justification? George Fu Gao, let's be a little bit more direct on what George Fu Gao's responsibility was. He helped oversee the military version of a bioweapon lab in Wuhan, China. Remember the labs in another country that borders on the west of Russia? Okay, remember that movie Outbreak? Remember they were going to bomb that entire town? I think it was Somerville or something like that. I can't remember the name of the town. To keep what? To keep what classified? Do you know the week that George Fu Gao was visiting in New York and playing as a major participant in Event 201 global pandemic exercise based on a new coronavirus developed in a lab that he helped oversee? You know what happened during that time frame? They went calm silent. They went calm silent in Wuhan around those facilities. Listen, you send one of your operatives over here in all black, whatever, to surveil my home. You better watch out who you're playing with here. This ain't my first rodeo with stuff like that with you people. You don't like what I'm saying? Whatever. Preempt this channel again. You don't like what I have to say? You want vans of people to come out of their van, whatever, a van of people come out and sit on my front lawn? Is that the warning? You need to communicate to your operative, right? because I'm getting kind of sick of it. So, you know, these people at minimum need to be investigated. I mean, a criminal investigation. She held the position during the Obama administration, the same position that Dan Bongino is holding now, deputy director of the FBI. No, she held the position deputy director of the CIA. Right? But who do you think she was working for as far as the FBI goes? Comey, Mueller, right? Probably the new guy. What's the new guy? Christopher Wray, right? Okay, she was promoted as the director of national security. Okay, during this time, Event 201, they went comm silent around those facilities. What am I talking about? Comm silent. They all shut their cell phones off. Why did they do that? Why did they go, as far as military operations are concerned, why do you go ComSec? Why do you go, no, not comm silent? For as ComSec is concerned, they go comm silent to keep from a breach in operational security, OPSEC. Because you're running an operation, if you're moving a certain type of biological agent, you shut it down, you go comm silent, right? So that movement can't be detected or deter that movement from being detected, right? Okay, that's basically all I'm going to say about that. So please listen to this live stream from the beginning. If you haven't done so, I got business to take care of here real quick. And I'm getting sick of it. I'm really getting sick of it. I've earned the right to speak freely. I earned my First Amendment rights. With that said, good evening, good day, good morning, wherever you're from. This concludes the live stream. God bless. Remember, in God we trust. Everyone else we have to verify. Trust but verify, right? That said, thank you, and everybody have a great 4th of July. And remember, don't forget the one big, beautiful bill victory. It really means a lot what they've done. And thank you for everyone that helped get that passed. Okay, with that said, again, good evening, good day, good morning, wherever you're from. This concludes the live stream, and God bless. Thank you.